Hey y'all, let's jump right into this week's story of the week. I have a little tidbit I want to read, which is kind of an unhinged post I saw on LinkedIn. Here you go. So this person says, I wasn't allowed to be at the hospital when my first son was born. Turns out being severely ill with COVID in 2021 disqualified you from being in a COVID unit with newborns. But through a few questionable decisions, I was able to convince the hospital to let me in 2 hours before my son was born. This picture is the first skin to skin contact my son got. And yes, the bald man is me. My life changed forever 4 years ago, and I'd do it all over again given the chance. This is a bit unhinged because this guy admitted that he had COVID and he was still trying to be in the unit with other babies. I understand he wanted to see his son being born, but to me, that's very reckless. But the picture, you guys can't see it, but the picture is literally of this man doing skin to skin contact with his newborn, which I would not think somebody would want to post on LinkedIn because why would anybody want to see that? It just doesn't make any sense. I feel like he should just post that in his family group chat instead of posting it on LinkedIn. But okay, I'll read you one more unhinged LinkedIn post. Here we go. I guess I am obsessed with LinkedIn. People my age are busy swiping on dating apps, binge watching Netflix, or scrolling YouTube shorts. And here I am, refreshing LinkedIn every 5 minutes thinking, maybe there's a new notification. Maybe someone liked my post. Maybe I got a new follower. The first thing I do when I wake up, open LinkedIn. Not Instagram, not emails, not even my messages, just LinkedIn. It's not like I'm waiting for a job notification. I honestly don't even know what I'm waiting for. It's just dopamine, but make it professional. At this point, the only stable relationship I've had this year is with LinkedIn, not my clients, not my plans. This person seems like they are really, really lonely and they need to get some friends because that's pretty sad if they're just waking up every day and LinkedIn is the first thing that they're checking. And I hope it's satire, but honestly, I've seen way too many unhinged things that people post on LinkedIn, so I'm not surprised by this. You're probably wondering why I even started with those posts, and I will jump into it in this episode. But I just wanted to start with that because these are some of the things that make me cringe about LinkedIn. So, welcome back to Lush Life No Labels, a podcast about living your most luscious life on your own terms, exploring the struggles and joys of self improvement through relationships, career, wellness, and more. I'm your host, Fatu. Make sure to click the follow and like button if you enjoy my episodes. Also, if there are any topics you want to hear me talk about, send me an email, a DM on Instagram, or leave me a comment. So let's dive right in. Today's topic is going to be around LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is supposed to be a professional platform, but as you saw with some of these posts, of course, everyone is not professional. There are certainly some people who just post some really weird things on there. I would say too much information that some people post. But this episode is not going to be around the cringy LinkedIn posts. It's really going to be more around what is the function of LinkedIn and how could it help you grow your career, or how could you use LinkedIn to optimize the things that you personally want to optimize. So overall, the key question is, can LinkedIn really help us grow professionally and personally without draining us? I'll also be giving some tips and tricks on how to make it work best for you and not cringy like those posts. I've talked in the past about LinkedIn briefly, on how I actually don't use it very much and how it can be overwhelming sometimes. For example, let's say you're out somewhere, everyone wants to add you on LinkedIn as a new professional connection, but I actually find that a lot of those don't really pan out to anything. Why do we even have LinkedIn as a social media platform for professionals? Why does it even matter? Well, for a few reasons. The first is visibility. People can be seen by recruiters, employers, and their peers. The second is networking. LinkedIn allows you to have access to people outside of your usual circles. It's also a platform for learning. So it allows for free thought leadership, industry news, and also skills courses through their LinkedIn learning. And I would say that it is interesting to see different peers and colleagues complete new certifications or see someone you used to work with jumping to a new company. But LinkedIn ultimately is not relevant for every single job. For example, I have a friend who works in state government, and being active on LinkedIn is not really that relevant for that job, but it is more relevant for mostly corporate jobs, I'd say corporate jobs, nonprofits, and of course, startups, which are everywhere these days. But I'd say I'd even go as far as to say, even if you work in corporate like I do, personally, I don't think LinkedIn is the end all be all, but I do think that if someone wants to use it for those things, then it certainly has the avenue to be helpful to other people. There are a few struggles, though, that I've seen with LinkedIn. The first thing is that there's a comparison trap. Oftentimes, you see everyone else's promotions, their achievements, or what appears to be a perfect career. And you might start comparing yourself to them, saying, oh, why don't I have that? Or, oh, I'm not as good as them. There's also a lot of performative posting. I mean, I just read those cringy ones at the beginning of this episode, which I think is pretty performative in itself. I don't know why you need to post your newborn on LinkedIn and what that has to do with anything, but sometimes people do feel pressure to brand themselves constantly. That other post I read, that person's like, oh, I'm on it all the time. And there's absolutely no reason for that. But there are folks who feel like they constantly need to be posting things or liking things or just being visible 24/7 without it really being meaningful. I also find that LinkedIn has a lot of noise and can lead to burnout. So, of course, if you're just constantly feeling like you need to post, that can certainly lead to burnout. But as you're scrolling through, similar to other social media sites, it's basically just an endless feed that you're scrolling through. You can see some mixed advice on there where one person is saying, oh, here's my expertise, this is what you should do. Some other person is saying the complete opposite. And then even the things around the job application, sometimes you just send in so many applications, you don't even know where it's going. So those are some things I personally don't like about LinkedIn, and that does make me hesitant to use it, and that's kind of why I stay away from it a little bit. Overall, I do think there is an impact on self-worth if your progress feels slower than your peers. Again, that goes back to the whole comparison gap. But it just gets more insufferable when people are using it just like any other social media account, like those cringy ones I just saw. I feel like that's something you would see on Facebook, right? Just posts going all over the place, posting a ton of personal photos, personal updates. I saw somebody talk about how they got married and that was one of their greatest accomplishments. And if that is for them, good. But they somehow were like, oh, and that's going to help me in my career. I don't know. I don't mean to sound like a hater, but I don't agree with that personally. People just be saying anything on LinkedIn, in my opinion. Not everyone, but a lot of these people. But again, there are worthwhile stuff on it. You just really have to cut through the wannabe influencer stuff in order to find that. So, enough about me ragging on LinkedIn. Let's jump into some tips and tricks on how, if you personally want to improve the way that you use LinkedIn or increase your visibility, then there are definitely a lot of really good things that you can do. in order to get to where you want to be. First things first, let's start with the profile optimization. There are a few things that you can do to maximize and optimize your profile. For example, just starting off with the profile design. I would say definitely having a headshot is helpful because it is your first digital impression for whoever you are connecting with professionally. So a picture that has direct eye contact, maybe a little smile, a plain, clean background, no sunglasses. It doesn't need to be a picture you just took yesterday. My LinkedIn photo is one that I actually took in 2019. One of my old jobs had us take headshots, and I've just never changed it because, again, I don't really care that much to change it. But I know that there are people who like to keep up with it, and so they might change it every chance they get, which is a personal choice. But overall, definitely having a headshot there is helpful because it helps to put a face to the name. The next thing is around the headline. I like to pick 2 to 3 specific words in that headline on what I do. So I like to make sure that my headline isn't just my job title, but it is something that shows what I actually do or what I am looking for. The next part of these profiles is the about section. And that's typically the area where it's a summary that can act as your elevator pitch. So if you only had 30 seconds to 1 minute to tell someone about yourself, I usually like to pick 5 to 7 key words to include in there and like to also include any accomplishments that can help me stand out. And in doing some research, I found that recruiters have a tool where they can search for candidates based on skills, location, company, titles, your university, years of experience. It's helpful sometimes to add any relevant skills that you can think of in that section. If you have some friends or colleagues or even clients, it may be worth asking them to endorse those skills so that it helps you look like a stronger candidate for whatever it is that you are doing on LinkedIn. And of course, if you're someone who is in tech or if you have any links to any websites that you have or any key projects or portfolios, you may consider adding that as well to your LinkedIn to help people associate you with those projects that you've done. It's easier said than done. You may want to play around with different headlines and different summaries just to see what actually gets traction for you. Like I said, having the profile, of course, is the basic thing. I have that. I will say that even though I'm not actively posting on LinkedIn like that, I do have a profile. So, what else can you do on LinkedIn? Of course, a lot of people go on there to post to get that visibility, but also people can use it for job searching and reaching out to network with other people. This is an area that I actually do use for LinkedIn. So let's say that you're interested in a company. You can see if you are mutual friends with someone from that company. If you go to the company site, it kind of tells you who your connections are. See if you went to the same school as the person you want to reach out to. This will be part of the message that you send to them. Something like, "Hi, David, my name is Fatu, and I'm an alumni of UPenn." Or if you worked at a company that you used to work for, you can say, "Hi, David, my name is Fatu, and I saw that you used to work at XX consulting company, and I did as well." You're basically using that first line to set up a connection and an establishment with this person, especially if it's somebody you don't know and have never spoken to. Familiarity goes a long way in these things because a lot of times people don't want to respond to cold messages. But if you can show that there's a connection, it gives you one step into the door. Finding that common ground is important because it'll make you stand out compared to all of the other messages that they're getting. Another way you can say this: "Hi, I found your post on LinkedIn." And again, these types of messages are mostly if you want to reach out to someone to get to know more about something that they just posted. Maybe they just posted a job and you want to do a coffee chat with them about that job. Or maybe you're interested in that company and you want to do a coffee chat about that company. So here's a few other types of messages you can send. You could say something like, "Hi, Jane, I found your post on LinkedIn. I'm interested in this role that you're hiring for. Can we set up a 10 to 15 minute chat to discuss this opportunity?" This is helpful if they made a post directly about a job that they're hiring for. Another way you can say it is, "Hi, Jane, I'm Fatu. I'm interested in this position and would like to connect to learn more about the opportunity as it aligns well with my experiences and skills. Can we chat more about this opportunity?" Let's say there's someone that you see and they don't work at this company anymore, or they're not in that position anymore, but you still just want to know what their previous experiences were. You can say something like, "Hi, Randy. I see you were an associate at XX company a few years ago and would like to learn more about the company and your experiences working there. Let me know if you're open to chat." These are very simple and quick messages. It doesn't require you to do too much. It doesn't require them to read too much, but it's a very quick and easy way to just send a quick email to try to connect with someone who you want to get more information from, especially someone you've never talked to. I've done this a lot actually, and while not everyone responds, there are some people who do respond, and those are the people I end up having these quick coffee chats with. Sometimes it can feel like throwing darts at the wall to see which one sticks, but something will stick at some point. So I encourage you to try this out, if anything, just to practice doing different coffee chats. Aside from networking with people, the other thing that people, of course, use LinkedIn for is job searching. Let's say you are looking for a new job, or maybe you're not actively looking for a new job, but you just want to stay open to what might be out there. Well, one of the things you can do is follow job board pages. Specifically, you can follow people who post jobs. I do this and it's surprisingly helpful. This is different from LinkedIn's internal job board, though. I want to specify that. This one is specific for people who post weekly lists of jobs in their industry. So you may find this person just through another network. Somebody else may have posted it. Maybe someone reposted their thing. But I follow some of those industry people. And so they'll just say, "Oh, here's our weekly newsletter where we post a bunch of jobs that are being hired for." That's helpful. And I find that those jobs are actually really real versus some other job listings that you might see on LinkedIn. The other thing that you can do in terms of job searching is setting up alerts for certain job titles or industries. This one is specifically using LinkedIn's job feature, and you can use it like a job board. So, for example, you can go on there and say, "Oh, I'm looking for marketing positions in any industry." And you can set up an alert so it'll tell you every day or every week, depending on what you want, what jobs are available. And then, of course, you can filter it however you want. And that's helpful because then you don't have to go searching every single time and restart a search for a specific thing that you're looking for. The alert will just give you a curated list of things to look at. However, one thing that I don't like about the LinkedIn job board, though, is more and more something that has been annoying me is that companies will post or repost some jobs that are fake. In my opinion, they're using it for tax write offs. It makes them look like they're actually increasing employment when they're not. So if I see a job posting, whether it's from one of these industry people, whether it's from LinkedIn, I always, always, always go directly to the site of the company to make sure that the job actually exists. My advice is to not apply for jobs through LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn has that feature where you can automatically apply. I don't know how well that works, but I personally always apply through the actual company website. That's actually how I've gotten all of my jobs. If I see it on LinkedIn or another job board, I will go to that company and search for that and make sure, one, that it exists, and two, just applying directly, make sure that they'll definitely see my application and it's not going to just get lost in the sauce of a third party platform like LinkedIn. It just guarantees that you're applying to a real job. I know, at least in the US, that has been increasingly a concern for a lot of people. So that's one way to guarantee that whatever job it is actually one that exists. Like I said, I would definitely encourage you to actually apply directly on the company's job website. But on LinkedIn, sometimes there will be jobs listed where it says, "Oh, this is the person who is the recruiter for that job." Even if it's not the job you want, I actually think connecting with a recruiter for that company could help if there is a job that pops up in the future. Again, this may only be relevant if you're actively searching for jobs, but if you think you might start looking in the next 6 months, it may be worth just connecting with the recruiter to ask them some questions about it. Here's an example of a message you could send them. You could say something like, "Hi, Joe. I hope you're doing well. I see you're recruiting for the Senior Customer and Market Insights position at this company. I'm interested in this position and would like to connect to learn more about the opportunity as it aligns well with my experiences and skills." Another way you can say this is, "Hi, Joe. I hope you're doing well. I'm interested in XX position, or I'm interested in this company and would like to learn more about the company and your experience working there. If you're open to a brief conversation, please let me know when there's a convenient time for you." That way, you're leaving it open ended. They don't need to be forced to talk to you, but at least it's a very quick thing that shows your interest to them. Maybe you have a conversation with that recruiter now, and maybe there's no job for you or you applied and didn't get in, but at least you're on their radar because in the future perhaps they're going to be hiring for something and they'll remember, "Oh, I actually talked to this person. Let me reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in this position." And I do know that recruiters reach out directly to people on LinkedIn. So this is definitely something that is very possible to happen. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the profile optimization piece. People do look at these profiles. Even though I'm not active, I see that people look at my profile and recruiters will reach out. Even if it's not a job that matches with what I want, it lets me know that the fact that I have the profile up there at least is keeping me on somebody's radar. And so, again, if you're not searching for a job, then it doesn't really matter to you. But if you are looking for a job or you think you might want a new one in the future, then it definitely doesn't hurt to have that profile up to date or to just reach out to recruiters to have a quick conversation. And like I said, I've been talking a lot about making LinkedIn work for you in terms of your profile and reaching out to people. But I do understand that the other thing that people do, of course, is post. Again, do not post those cringy posts like the ones I read at the beginning. But I do know, of course, people will talk about projects that they did. And I actually have only, I think I've really only had less than 5 posts ever on LinkedIn. And I did do an experiment a while back where I did post, like, I think I posted once. And then a few weeks later, I posted again, just about an experience I had with the fellowship that I did. And it was fun doing that for sure, just to let people know. And I wanted to sort of increase my credibility in that part of the industry. But again, because I'm not really interested in posting that much, I kind of fell off of it. I will like people's posts for sure. If I see somebody has a new job or they post something, I'll like their post, but I certainly am not very active in the sense of commenting or even having my own posts. But again, if you want more visibility, of course, posting is helpful, but don't just post to post, right? You want to make sure that you're actually posting something of substance, whether it's talking about an accomplishment that you've had recently, whether it's talking about something that you're planning on doing. If you, let's say you are a startup founder, perhaps you're talking about different challenges that your startup would help with. Perhaps you just finished grad school and you're looking for jobs, so you might post about previous work experiences that you've had. You may post about networking events that you went to and who you met there, just to sort of let people know that you are out there and you're being active. So again, really the degree of whether you're going to post or not, to me, depends on how much visibility it is that you want. But you can even have a page like mine where I barely do anything on there and people will still look at your page. So at the very least, it's good to have that basic optimized profile, and then you can pick and choose how often you actually want to be involved in LinkedIn or how often you even want to check it. Don't be that girl who's checking it every single day, the first thing in the morning. That's a little too much. But certainly there are varying degrees of ways that you can use this, especially if you feel like you're overwhelmed. There are too many notifications, there are too many posts, and you just don't want to deal with that or you feel overwhelmed with that. Then certainly pick and choose how often it is that you actually want to even just go in and check the app. That's what I do personally because I find it to be very overwhelming. So I kind of don't go on there very much. The ways to make LinkedIn more practical for you in terms of furthering your career would be to optimize that profile with that clear headline, that strong about section, and just that story about yourself. I just mentioned this, right? But engage, don't just scroll. People say that having those thoughtful comments or questions about other people's posts, conversing with them is helpful. I don't do this, but certainly I know a lot of people do that and it helps them. So if that helps the thing that you want to do, then certainly go for it. Certainly can be helpful for people in that way. And also try to share some small wins. I feel like a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I did this huge thing and now I'm going to post it on LinkedIn," which you can definitely do, but oftentimes we do forget to share the small stuff, and celebrating your progress in something is also just as helpful as celebrating an accomplishment in something as well. And that's what I did. I talked about something that I progressed on and talked about how I want to build on it. It wasn't done, but I did put that up there. And I think that's something that is not emphasized enough on LinkedIn. Everyone feels like they need to just be perfect and just put everything about accomplishments, but I would encourage you to also share your small wins as well. And of course, if you're somebody who wants to use it as a learning platform, then you can use the LinkedIn Learning for any upskilling. Like I said, I use it to connect with other people, to see what jobs exist in other industries, and to reach out to people from companies that I want to learn about. Because I don't post or really comment or have conversations on there, I'll say that I personally don't optimize it to the fullest. The jobs I've gotten, I didn't use LinkedIn for. I used other job sites or just found a job and then went to the direct website. But I know people who have found jobs through LinkedIn. I know people who have recruiters reach out to them and they've secured jobs from that. So ultimately, you should use this platform for whatever works best for you, but don't be putting your newborns on there. That is annoying. I talked about this before, but it's important to set some boundaries for yourself in terms of time limits or curating your feed. Maybe you decide, you know what, I'm just going to check it once a week while I drink my coffee. I'm going to try to ignore all that hustle culture BS and only post when I actually have something worth saying. Maybe that's every 3 to 4 months for you. Maybe it's once a week. Whatever makes more sense. Perhaps you check it every day, but when you post, just be intentional about it. And always remember that LinkedIn is only showing a snapshot. It's not showing the full story. So if you find yourself comparing yourself to all these people who you feel like are so accomplished and have done way more in life than you have, just remember that you're only seeing what they want you to see. Just like any other social media site, you're getting a glimpse into it. You don't really know if that is like the full story, right? So just keep that in mind if you find that you're kind of comparing yourself to these snapshots of people's careers that you're seeing online. And ultimately, the more intentional you are, then the more LinkedIn can become a mirror of your growth and not really a distraction. So overall, just treat it like a job tool instead of a social media site, and you can find ways for it to work for you. I'll end it there for today. Just a little tips about LinkedIn for you all, because I know a lot more people are starting to really get on LinkedIn. And when people apply for jobs, especially in corporate, they'll often ask you for the LinkedIn page that you have. So people do look at it for sure, and recruiters do reach out. So let me know if you have any questions about it. I'm happy to answer more questions or do a part 2, diving more into how you can use it for your career. One question I do have for you though is, what tips do you have about making LinkedIn valuable to grow professionally or to job search? Leave your answers for me in the comments. Thanks for listening to Lush Life No Labels. Cheers to your lush life and your growing career, and see you later.